In today's video, we're walking through 10 beautiful cichlid tank setups, not only of our own, but some that we have toured in the past, and a few content creators on YouTube have also collabed with us today to provide some amazing footage of their aquariums. I can't wait to get into the list. Let's dive right in. So previously we did a list of cichlid tank setups for peacocks and haps, but today we're focusing on the last category of Lake Malawi African cichlids, and that is the Mbuna. So Mbuna have slightly different care requirements than the peacocks and haps. They stay a little smaller, they prefer more rock structure in their aquarium so they can go in and out of the caves. They have a more vegetable-based diet than the peacocks and haps, and they can be pretty feisty little cichlids. Some people would say more aggressive than the peacocks and haps. So many fish keepers elect to overstock their Mbuna tanks to help mitigate some of that aggression. And you'll see that on some of the cichlid tanks we show today, but not all of them. But I do think it's a good variety of cichlid tanks, and hopefully can provide some inspiration for you if you're looking to get into Mbuna or setting up your next African cichlid tank. And this list is not in any particular order. These are just 10 great Mbuna cichlid tank setups. So let's get into number one.
What's up guys, Quinn here. So for me, my favorite African cichlid tank setup is definitely my 75-gallon Mbuna tank here. So I absolutely love the colors and the activity of this tank, and it's a great contrast for more of my Central and South American cichlid tanks in my classroom. So the stocking of this tank, I have a lot of yellow labs, I have yellowtail acai, and I have some Johanni. I love the way that the yellows and the blues intermix there, and it just makes for a really cool looking tank. I do have some dragonstone and some dark substrate in here as well. One of my favorite parts about the Mbuna is they breed like crazy. So I've had multiple generations of Mbuna in this tank. Seems like every other week I have new babies kind of coming out of the rockwork here. So one thing to keep in mind with Mbuna tanks is you definitely want to have as many hiding spots and crevices between the rocks as possible, because they do breed very rapidly. So it gives the next generation a chance to survive and eventually get big enough to be out in the open in the aquarium.
So next up is an incredible Mbuna cichlid tank, one of my absolute favorites that I've seen out there. And this is from Malawi Aquascape. Thanks so much to him for providing this footage. We've seen him on Instagram and on YouTube, and we can watch this Mbuna cichlid tank for days. It's absolutely beautiful and stands apart from all the rest in our opinion. He gave me some of the specifics of the tank, so I'll go ahead and talk about that now. It is 450 liters, which is roughly 120 US gallons. It has a combination of artificial and slate rocks, and I think that totally makes this tank stand apart, along with that light blue background. Normally I go with black, but this really looks great in my opinion with the different rocks. It looks super natural, and the Mbuna definitely enjoys swimming in and around those rocks. But I really like the contrast of these different Mbuna groups that he went with here. It's an absolutely beautiful tank, and can't thank him enough for sharing this beautiful footage with us. And like any of the footage or the tanks that we show today, we'll leave links to their channels down in the description below. Definitely go subscribe so you can see more of these beautiful tanks.
Next up, we have my newest tank, which is a 180-gallon custom aquarium. So it's pretty standard dimensions, 6 feet by 2 feet by 2 feet. I did go with that 36-inch stand to get it a little bit higher, kind of like my Predator Hap tank. And I just love this tank. I also have some rocks from Aqua Decor backgrounds. They also do just floating or sinking rocks as well. And that's what I have here. And the Mbuna love rockscape. They love kind of hiding and burrowing and tunneling and kind of interacting with the rockscape, and I just love it. But also I have Mbuna in here, as you can see, and they're so active, and they're almost like puppy dogs. They love interacting with me anytime I come near the tank. They aren't skittish at all. They're a lot of fun. They're always acting hungry and showing a lot of life and a lot of behavior and a lot of color as well. I always call this tank kind of a moving painting, and I love Mbuna. I feel like Mbuna also kind of get a bad rap when it comes to African cichlids, because they are probably the most territorial as kind of the small bulldog types of the African cichlid world. But really, I haven't had a lot of aggression in here. As long as you carefully follow some basic stock list guidelines, I think you'll be fine. And like I said, this is my newest tank, and it's been up and running for about 6 months now, and I just love it.
Hey everyone, Evan here with Riffwaters. I'm so excited that the Cichlid Bros invited me here today to share with you one of my aquariums. I like to call this my black and yellow tank. It is the classic setup of all yellow labs in an all black aquarium. And it's a classic for a reason. It makes for a stunning aquarium. And it's a very rewarding fish to keep. It's very common in the hobby for good reason. It's a beautiful fish, easily available, simple to breed, and relatively peaceful compared to other African cichlids. If you're just dipping your toes into the world of African cichlids, this is a fantastic option to start with. It's a show-stopping aquarium with a great beginner-friendly cichlid. There's even an all-white version as well as orange and blue, though they're a little harder to find. Well, thanks guys for checking out this tank with me, and again, big thanks to the Cichlid Bros. I'll see you guys around.
So the next two cichlid tanks come from our trip to Washington, D.C., where we met with Mike and Will from Cich Psyche, who showed off their 125-gallon cichlid tanks. Let's go ahead and cut to them now.
Like I love with the Mbunas, what I did over here is I took some Texas Holy Rock and I used that as the foundation. So you've got all those cracks and crevices, and then I took lace rock and I built on top of the Texas Holy Rock so that there's plenty of hides, plenty of space. And what I've noticed with this aquarium is that like I get new babies, the growth and the life in this tank, the activity in this tank, both of these I would say in regards to the aquariums are my favorite to watch as far as activity. Jallow reef babies, some Solosi, I forget the other, red top hongi. So there is definitely something of everything in there.
About 32 Mbuna in there right now. They're biotopes in their natural environment, so that's how I got into adding the rocks to it, the lace rock, because it helps with the pH and everything with the water. I also added the crushed shell to keep the levels where I want them. I test my water once a month right now. All my levels stay the same. Added a bigger heater, and of course the dual wave makers to get us flow in there so I don't have any waste or anything. I also have this tank overfiltrated. I have a FX6 along with a 407 just to make sure my waste level stays down, as well as I want to keep the clarity good in the tanks. The colors is the reason I went with cichlids, because they're the most colorful of the freshwaters that I've seen so far, and that was the deciding factor of me going saltwater to freshwater.
So next up on the list is this 125-gallon Mbuna tank that I toured about a year ago. This is Frugal Fishkeeping cichlid tank, and I really enjoyed this cichlid tank because it was set up for so long. He said it had been up and running for 10 years and he never had to put extra Mbuna in his tank because they just kept breeding and growing up, and he has multiple generations in this tank. You'll see a good amount of OB coloration in some of these Mbuna as well, and I think that just goes to show all the different breeding that's been happening in this tank. There's even some babies down by the rock structure, but I really like the flat rocks that he has stacked up in the middle. It provides a lot of different caves and territories for the Mbuna to swim in and out of, and it's a big enough tank, being a 125. They can have plenty of Mbuna in here and they still have plenty of open space to swim around, but I absolutely love when Mbuna are swimming in and out of the rocks. And I believe he also had a Raphael catfish in here, and one thing that you may have seen in some of the tanks is some different catfish species like Synodontis petricola or Raphael cats. Some of those smaller to medium-sized catfish can be decent tank mates for Mbuna, but one of my favorite things when it comes to African cichlids is just feeding the tank and watching them go absolutely crazy. This feeding frenzy of the 125 was definitely the highlight of my trip, and I really enjoyed my overall tour of his fish room. So next up on this list is a 210-gallon Mbuna cichlid tank that I saw at my local fish store. This was at Aquarium Adventure in Hoffman Estates, Illinois. And this tank stood out to me and I wanted to show some footage of it just because it's a bit different, but shows you another way to set up an Mbuna tank with a lot of holy rock here that's all stacked up really high. I really like the holy rock because there's so many spaces for the Mbuna to swim in and out of. I also really like the sand choice here. I think with any Mbuna you probably need to go with sand because they will interact with that substrate so much. They'll move sand around, they'll swim in and out of caves that they burrow themselves into. And you'll see this local fish store even drew a little map of Africa and where these Lake Malawi cichlids come from, which I thought was kind of cool. They had a mix of different Mbuna in here, from yellow labs to yellowtail ACI to some of your Aratus and more aggressive Mbuna. But if you look on the side of the tank, you can really see how high up that holy rock goes. I really like the more elevated rock if you can get that structurally sound in your tank. I think it's a really good look and a great habitat for your Mbuna. And this local fish store added a few live plants to the tank, and Anubias and Java Fern, which will probably be eaten by the Mbuna over time, but you got to give them props for at least trying, and maybe they'll last, maybe they won't. But anytime I put live plants in an Mbuna tank, or my brothers have, they've been gone in less than a week, so best of luck to them there. But we also wanted to highlight a couple tanks that weren't huge. Maybe they're more manageable to the everyday aquarist. When it comes to Mbuna, you can keep them in a 55 or 40 gallon breeder depending on the species you go with. So let's kick that over to Alec now.
My first African cichlid tank was about 6 years ago. I got a 55 gallon Mbuna tank, and I just love that tank size for that type of fish, especially for beginners. The 55 gallon and Mbuna are a great combination because Mbuna don't get any larger typically than 6 inches, and they thrive with overstocking. So you can get away with a lot more fish, and I think Mbuna are a great fish for beginners to kind of learn and grow in the hobby, which is exactly what I did. My next tank is just a simple 40 breeder that I got from Petco to set up as a quarantine tank for my Mbuna before I moved him to my show tank 180. And I actually really like it as a new addition to my basement fish room. I kind of like the rockscape with the elephant rock that I got from a local fish store, kind of pushed into the corner and kind of stacked at an angle. And the Mbuna seem to like it too. And I've actually liked keeping my Mbuna in here a little bit longer and watching them fatten up. I usually get them real small at about 1.5 to 2 inches. So I like to kind of fatten them up as much as I can before I put them in my show tank. And so I kind of like this little tank where they get a little extra attention and they feel a little extra safety and security and kind of grow into alpha males before I put them into my 180.
But that does it for our list of 10 Mbuna cichlid tanks. I hope we provided some good knowledge, information, or some inspiration for you if you're looking to set up an Mbuna tank. Thanks again to Malawi Aquascape, Riffwaters, Cich Psyche, Frugal Fishkeeping, and all the creators that have collabed with us on these recent videos. We really appreciate it. Their links will be down in the description below. Definitely go subscribe to their channels. Thanks again for watching, guys, and we'll see you next time.